Welcome to the Rise of Cryptocurrencies show. Today we're joined by Bitcoin Charlie, and I'd like to discuss the differences between cryptocurrencies and gold and silver, as well as the future for digital currencies, and why you should really be cautious with ICOs and some of the latest news in the crypto. So there's no better guest than Bitcoin Charlie. How are you today?
I'm doing good. And you?
Excellent. I want to get started with a question about the fork. Bitcoin has just been on a tear. Now, the fork has basically proven one thing. The coins aren't just valuable because of their rarity or because they're limited in amounts. Since we've just doubled the amount of Bitcoins there are, but one of them is soaring while the other is tanking. Explain your thoughts on the fork and really why the community is going all in on Bitcoin and is losing faith in Bitcoin Cash.
Well, I think you've nailed it. The Bitcoin has done a fork, and there's now two coins. There's one basically I'd call the core coin, Bitcoin, and then the other one would be called the cash coin, which I would classify as an altcoin. And all of the serious developers are all behind the Bitcoin, and they want to make sure that the Bitcoin stays as secure as possible and it becomes a medium or a store of value for the future going forward. The other Bitcoin Cash, I've heard some discussion on. They're going to try a lot of alternate things and try and maybe speed it up, maybe try some different things like the Lightning Network on it, try putting some SegWit into it, and they're hoping that they can make it the dominant coin in the future. Already, though, there's been a big sell-off on the Bitcoin Cash. So I think, to your point, it has lost some of its luster already. But I think it'll be a good test bed for some of the experiments they want to perform going forward. And for those of us who just want to hold on to our Bitcoin core, we're going to do that. I haven't moved any of mine. I have no plans to move any of my Bitcoin core. I'm just going to sit on it and let all this work out. Maybe 5 or 6 years from now, we'll look back on this and look back and say that was a bad decision. But there's been a ton of enthusiasm around all of this with the August 1st fork that they did do. So hopefully maybe now that we're past some of that, some of this will settle down. And the people that truly want to invest in Bitcoin Cash will go do that. And then the rest of us will just maintain our positions over in Bitcoin Core.
Well, I want to ask you this. As long as we're talking about 5 or 6 years into the future, what do you think this industry will look like 5 or 6 years from now? Do you have any vision or your imagination? Where is it going with this industry?
I think the world is heading at light warp speed into cryptocurrencies. I see this market just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I think this is truly the path that we can actually avoid maybe a Venezuelan-style crash and not have to go through all of the financial hardships and all the devastation that they're dealing with. I think that cryptocurrencies may give us the path to avoid a lot of that, because I think now we can start diverting some of our paper money into cryptos, and we can slowly maybe transition into a crypto world rather than just having an all-out crash. Because if you take a look at it right now, how many of us even use cash today on a day-to-day basis? Hardly any of us do. We all use plastic money anymore. And all of our bank statements anymore, they're just ones and zeros, and we don't even use real cash there anymore. So that's generally the big feedback I get back from people. Well, Bitcoin isn't a real currency. Well, neither is our current currency. We're using electronic currency on all of that stuff today as well. So I envision that 5 to 6 years from now, this market, we are just getting started. We're at the very early stages of this. I contend this is like 1993 when we had the internet just getting up and running, and I really had no clue how to invest. I saw it as a huge opportunity for us, but I couldn't see what companies would be the future. But with Bitcoin coming out and being the dominant player, and today it's still got a 50% dominance and 143 billion market cap, it's definitely a dominant player, and I see it with very long legs going forward.
Interesting. Now, you've touched on governments, and I want to ask you, what are you most concerned about with regards to governments? I know the government, the U.S. government, the IRS, is now actively pursuing Coinbase. It wants access to the database. It shut down other exchanges. Obviously, the exchanges are easiest to go after because they're an entity that does have to report its own earnings to the U.S. government. It's a business entity within either the U.S. or its respective government. What is the major concern in the community with regards to how governments might proceed going forward with cryptocurrencies, with the blockchain, with regards to the fact that they're just simply losing $150 billion or even more right now in fiat money that is going into a different payment system that is not controlled by them?
I don't necessarily view government as a problem. I think that they're basically behind the curveball here. They're going to be playing catch up for years. I think they've basically done, near as I can tell, they've passed no substantial legislation to prevent these cryptocurrencies from coming into play. There was a ruling here a couple weeks ago that they thought Ethereum was now classified as a security, but I haven't heard any financial repercussions for anybody involved in it, that they're going to penalize anybody. I think they're largely standing back and kind of letting it run. And it's kind of like when the internet got up and running in '93. They kind of stepped back and gave it a few years and said, let's let it start running and let's see what it can do. But I suspect they'll probably come out with some type of federal coin or something, and they'll want us to participate in it. But if Bitcoin gets legs underneath it like it's already doing, today it's sitting at $4,300, near an all-time high again. I just see this thing up and running, and I see even more potential from some of these no-name coins right now, like Litecoin. Litecoin, I think, has even got more scalability. If we were to have any type of financial blip in the banking system today or tomorrow, I foresee that Litecoin could take over and start being our currency, because everybody could start using that day to day. It's got a lot more coins in circulation. Its speed is much faster than Bitcoin. So I foresee that government may be just stepping back at this point in time and saying, let's let it run a little bit. Let's see where it's at, and we'll start analyzing it and figuring out how to take care of it down the road.
Interesting. Charlie, another question that is burning in other people's pockets is these ICOs. Yesterday I just heard from another case of a guy who sent 500,000 worth of Bitcoins to this ICO and got sucked right in there, and the person is a no-show. You can't find him. He raised $20 million or even more. That's it, he's gone. How dangerous are these ICOs in the cryptocurrency world?
I think they're highly dangerous. Right now, today, we're sitting at 851 of them. And there's only a handful in my world that I think are even worth considering. If you're going to invest in any of these ICOs, which some of them, it's a really hard job to invest in them. You got to go through all kinds of steps to figure out how they're being traded, what platforms you got to use, and everything else. But I think you need to go out and you got to do your homework. You got to figure out who's behind it. You got to figure out their track record. You got to figure out what they stand for. And then before you send them any money, you better make sure they're a real business, because I'm hearing the same thing. I'm hearing more and more people are sending money off to some, I'm the next greatest whatever, XYZ ICO, and they're gone the next day after they get the money. So I think it's a high risk. This is no guarantee that any of these coins, even Bitcoin, will survive into the future. I think Bitcoin's got the best chance of probably any of them at this point in time of surviving. But there's no guarantee of any of this stuff, because there's nobody backing this. There's no government going to come in and save you. If you don't do your homework, if you don't set up your accounts correctly, if you don't take care of your private keys properly, there's a whole lot of risk to this business. It's going to, I think, educate a lot of people to learn how to truly manage money. They've been so insulated in the past from being able to use a credit card. And, oh, I didn't really make that charge, and then they dispute it. This is going to bring a whole new world of responsibility back to people. So if you're throwing your money out there, not investing in these things, and that's largely what got me into this, is I was not any type of software engineer or anything like that. I'm just a guy that wanted to find out this information, and I went out and I started pursuing it, and I found out some of this information is really hard to find out, and it's really kind of technologically challenging. I'm not a technical guy, but it's very technologically challenging to get out there and figure out some of this stuff and figure out where to invest, who to invest your money with, and how to get set up on an exchange. And my number one rule is don't hold any money on an exchange, because your money's at risk. It's just like in the banking system. It's at risk. If you don't hold it and you don't own it, it's kind of like gold and silver. If you don't hold it and you don't own it, you truly don't own it. So these ICOs and these Bitcoins and these other cryptocurrencies are the same thing. If you don't own the private keys on them, you truly don't own them.
Now, you've touched on gold and silver. Let's just continue real quick with regards to gold and silver. As you said, you're not a tech guy, so you don't come from that world that just is absolutely in love with cryptocurrencies. You take a very logical approach to all of this. If the government comes in and threatens your liberty, you're not going to be a rogue underground guy that's going to keep using cryptocurrencies no matter what. You're not a crypto bug, and you're not a gold bug. What do you see as the main differences in terms of money between precious metals and cryptocurrencies? And let me take that a notch further and tell you that there are companies now that are working to make sure that every gold ounce above ground that is owned by an entity will be on the blockchain. So all of this nonsense, leverage and manipulation will be over in a few years, and everyone will own his own ounces, and you will know if you are owning ounces or if you're just holding a paper that promises you that you own ounces. So do you think that gold can reinstitute himself as the best form of money accepted by people, or do you think we're moving into a world where currencies are simply these keys, cryptographic keys with no tangible item backing them?
I guess I would approach it from the standpoint of gold and silver definitely have value. They have value going forward. I do not see them as not having value in the future. But really, gold and silver, you're saying, I agree with you that there's a bunch of companies coming forward. They're going to have ICOs and they're going to put them on the blockchain. But I don't know that we're necessarily going to need them going forward to be currency. Maybe for people who want to store true value, they'll want to put it in some type of gold ICO that they know tomorrow the gold ICO will still be there, whereas maybe a Bitcoin or something doesn't have anything substantially backing it. I just see the world moving into these ICOs and these cryptocurrencies as our main transfer of value, because we can run around on a cell phone and we can start transferring the value. And I just have a feeling if it's tied back to a gold, I may be wrong, but maybe if it's tied back to a gold type commodity, it might be a slower chain or something that doesn't process as fast. I'm not so sure that we're ever going to head back into the gold and silver world, mainly because I guess I have all those stories from the past when people used to get paid like in silver dollars. The first thing they wanted to do is they went to the grocery store. Here's a story of an 86-year-old lady who told me this recently. She got paid in silver dollars. First thing she did is she went to the grocery store and she unloaded all her silver dollars at the grocery store because she was tired of carrying them around. She said, they're heavy and they're bulky and I don't want to carry them around. So maybe we'll get cryptos.
Yeah, of course not a classical gold and silver community society, but an actual society that works with the backing of them, but on a one-to-one basis. So there's no leverage. People are actually using digital forms of currency, but they're all backed by gold and silver. But absolutely, I agree with you that it's impractical to to carry around coins when you're
Right.
working in a fast world, a global world like today. That doesn't mean that gold and silver cannot be instituted as legitimate forms of backing. It's all about getting this out of the hands of government, I guess. Tell us, Charlie, because we spoke before the interview, and you're a very smart guy, you're very knowledgeable. Tell us about what is the hottest news in the cryptocurrency world that you want to share with us.
Well, I am very impressed with probably a handful of coins, and I'll name them off here. Probably my top coins are Bitcoin. Then we've got some ICOs like Populous, which is going to be a new coin coming up. Then there's the Salt coin that hasn't even technically been released, which will be a lending-backed coin. And then there's AdX, which will be an advertising-based coin. And then it will substantiate any type of advertising you do, and they have to prove it. Everything will have to be logged on the blockchain so that it'll be provable. And at that point in time, then the advertisers will know they're truly getting what they paid for. Monero is probably one of the coins I see going forward as having a strong future. It is one of the truly private coins out there. If you need to do transactions that you want to do privately, that's probably the only coin at this point in time that's probably one that's truly private. One of the ones I see with a huge amount of upside is Litecoin. And like I discussed earlier, if we have any type of financial or banking issue going into the near future, I foresee that a whole bunch of us could run into that coin and start using it on a day-to-day basis that would probably become our currency going forward.
Well, Wealth Research Group, back earlier in the year, we definitely suggested people take a look at Monero and also Bitcoin. We've covered over the years all the other ones that you've mentioned. I personally have nothing to do with them, and I haven't even researched them further. But it's very good that you give people some ideas on what you think is hot. I want to lastly ask you about your website and what you offer there. Can you tell people?
On my website, it's easycryptocurrency.com. Basically, I try and give you, the people that come see me, all the information you need to get started in cryptos. Because in order to get started in any of these cryptos, no matter basically which way you want to go, you need to learn about Bitcoin, and you need to get started investing with Bitcoin, because basically it's the path that you use to buy all of these other coins. You can't go out and buy like a Salt coin, and you can't go out and buy an AdX coin with your cash. It's got to be purchased through either Bitcoin or Ethereum. And these are some of these coins you need to know. So if you go to my website, I offer all of this information for free. You don't have to subscribe to anything that costs you any money in order to get started. So what I'm trying to do is pass on to the people what I needed to know when I got started, because I thought this was a very scary world when I started. And it was finally a gold and silver guy that finally got me interested in it. He told me he was finally getting interested in investing in Bitcoin, and that really woke me up when a gold and silver guy said that. It was like, wow, if he thinks they're that strong, then maybe I need to do a lot more research on this.
Well, Charlie, thank you very much for coming in and doing this interview today. We've learned a lot.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.